The Mushroom Kingdom, one of the weirdest places ever seen in the world of gaming. I mean, just look at this thing, or that thing. Ew, it's so weird. It literally burns a hole in my skull. However, that's not why we're here. What I actually want to talk about today is certain enemies that were seen in some game, but never came back afterwards. In general, Nintendo loves to create some new enemy with a weird gimmick, then use it for one game, and after that they dump it. However, some of those are actually amazing and could be used again. And today we will look at 5 enemies that people have forgotten about that I would like to see once again. Now, let's dive right in. Number 5. Now, back in the day, when Nintendo was a more pure, innocent, and dominant company in the gaming industry, they made a lot of weird things. They just loved to experiment, with quite mixed results at times. And this was also the case for the first handheld Mario title. In Super Mario Land, you basically end up in some sort of Arabic country like it's Aladdin, and of course they had to come up with some fitting enemies for this as well. And one of those is the Gyo, a fire-breathing sphinx-like enemy, which can be found within the borders of Birubato Kingdom. Now in this game they stay in one place and shoot fireballs at Mario, and those fireballs can even be shot backwards, so as long as they are on screen, you're in danger. But sadly enough, they are quite easy to defeat, because they die after a single jump or super ball. Now personally, I like the idea and look of this enemy, and I would love to see it return. And if they do, Nintendo could do a whole lot more with them as well, because they aren't as limited with the current hardware. What they could do, for example, is combine the idea of this enemy with the Jaxi from Super Mario Odyssey. If you would do that, you would end up with a fast fireball shooting stone beast that would be an interesting challenge for most players. They could even be a subspecies of the Jaxi in a future game, and if you could ride them after beating one, then it would be even better. In a way, it would be similar to the Koopa clown car that can shoot fireballs. You know, the one from Super Mario Maker? And if it actually becomes similar in a way to that thing, then you can do more than enough fun stuff with it. Just look at how creative people can be with just a fireball shooting Koopa clown car. But while this is cool and all, I think the chances of this happening are actually quite low. Number 4. Hammer Bros. Everyone has seen these guys at some point when playing a Mario game. They are seen in a lot of them after all. And they are known for one simple thing: throwing hammers straight towards your head. And as you can imagine, this tactic is pretty darn effective, especially in the 2D games, where you can't get past them by walking around. But even in the 3D titles, they can be quite scary, which we have seen in Super Mario Odyssey, where they throw freaking pans at you. However, back in the day, during the 90s, there was another type of Hammer Bro that was the strongest of all. Easily. It was seen in Super Mario World, and they called it the Amazing Flying Hammer Brother, who was first seen in the level Donut Plane 4. Now, their tactic is actually quite simple. They hover around on a 2-block version of a flying platform that swings back and forth, and they attack by tossing hammers from their swooping platform, and you can beat them by attacking from below, or just jumping on them. And of course a power-up works as well. But in general, these are really hard to deal with in Super Mario World, but after seeing them there, they never really returned for some reason. Which is a bit sad in my opinion, because they could do so much more with them, even in the 3D titles. One thing you could do, for example, is put them in a more linear section and on the side. From there, they can bombard you with hammers while swinging around, and you need to get past them all while doing platforming challenges. Now, this is just one option. Another thing they could do is make it possible for the enemy to just fly around almost anywhere on those blocks. If they would do that, then it would be sort of similar to the Lakitu, but even scarier in my opinion. Because those hammers are a lot worse than some spinies. I bet if they would add something like this to the game, a lot of people would absolutely hate them. Because of how strong they are, of course. So in general, they can do more than enough with them, and it would be fun to see them once again. Number 3. Now, one thing that always makes me happy is explosions. Nothing feels better than seeing things being destroyed. anyways, in the Super Mario universe, we also see bombs, but they aren't as fun in my opinion. Now sure, there isn't anything wrong with the bullet bills and enemies like the bombs that can even be thrown by players, but to be honest, Nintendo can do so much better. Because in Super Mario Galaxy, they came up with an even better concept. The best one out there in my opinion. The Bombus. Now they only appear in the Ghostly Galaxy during the mission Beware of Bouldergeist and Bouldergeist's Daredevil Run. And they are seen in this mission because they are necessary to defeat the Bouldergeist boss. Now these boos float lazily back and forth, and after some time, they will explode. Now this isn't too special at all, but there is more to it. If you spin near one, you will grab its tongue and continue to spin while swinging the boo around until it hits something or you let go. Now this concept is just amazing in my opinion. It's like the bomb, but a lot more fun to throw or smack against a certain enemy. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be limited to just the boss fights. You could use it for so much more. For example, specific challenges or even random enemies. Heck, they could create a certain area in the game where you need to use these to defeat enemies and break brick walls. Sure, that would be a bit chaotic, but also glorious. Something like this would be very action-packed, and slinging those bombs around is a lot of fun. And remember, this is just one idea. You can do so much more with them, and maybe we will see them again one day. Number 2. Now our next enemy is probably one of the weirdest looking creatures we've ever seen in a Super Mario game, especially when you see it attack. I'm talking about the Fizzlets, which are small purple blob-like enemies that first appeared in Super Mario Galaxy 2. And I will say, before we really get into this, we have seen them in Super Mario 3D World, which is quite a recent game, but they aren't popular in any way to be honest. Now let's get into this. Clearly, this is quite an odd looking enemy. It really stands out. And I think that's on purpose because its attack is very dangerous. Because they can turn into a yellow electric puddle that is either square or a circle, and if you touch this in any way, you will take damage. Now personally, I love these because their tactic is quite unique and effective. It's like some sort of temporary hazard that can move around. In a way, it's very similar to those lava tomatoes seen in Super Mario Odyssey. And I gotta say, I love those as well. I just think this concept in general has a lot of potential. And while they have used them to great effect in Super Mario 3D World, I think Nintendo can do better. Because in that game, they are a bit obvious. In my opinion, it would be better to put these in a spot where you can't see them that well. Or only see them right before you step onto them. That way they can surprise you a bit. Which is a good thing in my opinion because it would make them a lot scarier. They rapidly expand in surface area after all, and that entire area will deal damage. So they can be quite overwhelming if you don't see them coming. But I think we won't see them ever again. However, one good thing about all of this is that Nintendo has made enemies like the Magmato that take the concept a step further. So while I like the Fizzlet and they might never return, Nintendo hasn't completely forgotten about the idea behind them. Number 1. Now in the world of Super Mario's, there's one enemy that everyone knows about, but rarely talks about. The only time people start to mention it is when they are doing some sort of Halloween-themed video. Aside from that, it gets ignored 364 days a year, and I've never seen anyone say they want to see it return in a future Mario title. In a way, it's both incredibly well known and completely forgotten about at the same time. A bit like the Virtual Boy. But this enemy is actually fun, unlike that piece of junk. I'm talking about the Mad Piano from Super Mario 64. Every 90s kid's worst nightmare. Literally. And the only reason why people even know about it is because it was seen in this incredibly famous game. And it also has an interesting tactic. At first, it looks normal, but when you approach the piano, it begins to open and close its lid, revealing razor-sharp teeth. And then it proceeds to chase and attack you while making an awful sound. And it's impossible to defeat this enemy in any way. despite the Nintendo Power Player's Guide stating otherwise. Now, as you can imagine, this thing is terrifying. And if you don't know about this jump scare, it's also really effective. And I would love to see this enemy return. I want to see a more modern take on this concept. They could do a whole lot more with it after all. You gotta remember that Super Mario 64 was the very first 3D title. So back then, they were quite inexperienced and limited. So there's a lot of potential here. And I bet it would fit pretty well in a world like the Cap Kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey. They could have easily placed them there. Sure, it would need to be a bit smaller and should get the ability to move around a bit, but that's it. That way you can do more with them. But hey, that's not even necessary. You could also add some sort of haunted concert hall in the game. And inside you will find all kinds of booze, possessed objects, and of course this piano, who could be some sort of final boss. And after defeating it by ground pounding on its lid a couple of times, you get a power moon as a reward. Now, this idea can also be used in a new type of world that's similar to a ghost house, for example. So in general, the options are endless. Sure, it's a bit crude, but hey, I'm not a Nintendo level designer, and I don't have months to work out these concepts. However, as you can see, all these forgotten enemies have something going for themselves. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell button, like this video, and leave a lovely comment telling me what you thought about this video. It really helps out, and then I hope to see you all in the next video.